104.5, the team, your home for New York Yankees baseball. Buster Olney joins Levack and Wolf. And Buster, the Yankees are in this streak against these lesser teams, the Rockies and the Twins. Out of the 11 that it started with the other day, if they don't win 8, where do the Yankees stand? Is it time to just throw up the for sale signs?
No, I think that that'll be a decision that they're going to make sometime when we get into the All-Star break and beyond. I mean, if they're 10 games out of first place and we're at the All-Star break, then the front office probably at that point can make a very compelling case to ownership and say, look, this team is not good enough and we need to turn this over and we need to talk to other teams about getting value in return for, Aroldis Chapman and Andrew Miller and Carlos Beltran to try to make the roster younger.
Buster Olney with us, and Buster, I read that you were speculating how much it would cost the Cubs to get Andrew Miller. The Cubs seem to be the buyer of the Major League Baseball world right now. Is there any other team / player that, as a Yankee fan, I should keep an eye on just in case they do decide to start making moves?
Yeah, and I think that in the end, because let's face it, where the Yankees are with their situation, they don't have to trade Andrew Miller. They could just keep him for themselves for the next 2 years. Nothing is driving them. So what they're going to do in these talks that they have with the Cubs and the Texas Rangers and the Dodgers, the Giants, and maybe some other contenders is probably place a very high asking price. And if some team jumps up and is willing to meet it, then they probably would make a deal. And I think if they make a trade with the Cubs, I'm absolutely convinced that their asking price to Chicago is going to be Kyle Schwarber, and that they would want him in return. Now, here's the thing. You look at the National League Central standings, the Cubs are leading by like 50 games, right? There's nothing that's really driving them either. So I don't think that, that those two teams can find a suitable deal that they would be able to work out for Andrew Miller. I do think there's a better chance that the two teams could work something out for Aroldis Chapman, because it would take a less of a package, because it would just be a 2-month rental, and the Cubs could definitely use a lefty, and Chapman would fit that. And so I think that the Rangers, in terms of the dynamics of the standings being in play, might turn out to be a better fit for Andrew Miller than the Cubs might be.
So, Buster, let's do the whole crystal ball game. Let's look at where they are and how it's going. I know it's kind of hard to speculate right now, but if I say Aroldis Chapman, Andrew Miller, Carlos Beltran, or even Kyle Schwarber, who are on the Yankees after the deadline on August 1st? Well,
and I want to give you proper context with my predictions on this. I picked the Yankees to be in the playoffs this year. Okay, so let's put a red flag up on my predictions on this. I think that they're going to trade both of the left-handed relievers. I don't think that they're a good enough team. I think that they have enough regret over past deals that they didn't make. Like last winter, they basically had the deal that the Phillies got for Ken Giles. The Yankees could have made that deal with the Astros. And so as they sit here today, knowing they could have had Velasquez, I think that regret will drive ownership this summer, and they will look to make a move if the team doesn't start playing better. And so I think Chapman would wind up with the Rangers. I suspect that the Yankees would be very interested in Joey Gallo, the Rangers' big slugger. There are some questions about his swing and miss rate and what position he's going to play. So that potentially could be a fit. If I'm just guessing here, I think Aroldis Chapman winds up with the Cubs, and one of their lesser prospects winds up with the Yankees, not Kyle Schwarber. And I think Carlos Beltran is going to wind up with either the Cleveland Indians or the Kansas City Royals, two teams that he can't block trades to. And let's face it, the Royals might be really engaged on this because they had Carlos before. Before the Yankees signed him, they actually negotiated with Carlos and had the second biggest offer on the table. They need an offensive upgrade. That makes some sense. And on the other hand, I think Cleveland's so careful in making midseason trades. Even though they could use Beltran, I don't see them being the team to step up.
Now, do you know what Nick Swisher did to be exiled, Buster, by the Yankees to the minors?
Yeah, he was cut by the Indians, and he was cut by the Braves. and he... he demonstrated to a lot of Major League evaluators that he is not, in their eyes, a Major League player anymore. And I know that some of the numbers he's put up, especially the on-base percentage, those get people excited. I will tell you that teams look at on-base percentage of a veteran player going down and facing minor league pitchers as being something they don't even care about. because they feel like that just through experience alone, you're going to have a major league hitter taking advantage of pitchers who don't know what they're doing. And so while some of those numbers look good, I mean, let's face it, if the you could make an argument that maybe the Yankees are wrong about Nick Swisher, but at any point, any other team could step up and say, you know what, we want to take a shot at Nick Swisher, but that hasn't happened in large part because he was cut by the Indians and cut by the Braves.
Buster Olney joining us on 104.5 The Team, your home for New York Yankees baseball. Buster, I guess what frustrates me the most as a Yankee fan, and you and I have talked about this for 2 years now, is the sun comes out in 2017. Like, we've almost had this weird for the Yankees, like, hey, wait, be patient, and we'll give you a winner again. And then they show us a team that looks like they can compete every offseason, and then they don't compete, and then they don't do anything to build towards 2017, 2018. Like, it's like we're in this weird limbo where, we're going to win now. No, we're not. Yes, we are. Yeah, no, it's the weirdest thing.
Well, and you're right. And one thing that general managers talk about is the place you don't want to be in Major League Baseball in this day and age is in no man's land, where you're sort of stuck in the middle, which is, and we've talked in recent weeks about how there are some teams tanking. I mean, let's face it, no one's going to say it out loud. Certainly no reporters who are paid by Major League Baseball are going to say it out loud, but there's tanking going on because of the draft. And so if you're the Yankees, where they are now, which is sort of stuck, as you say, in this weird place is not a good thing, which is why I do think there's going to be a push from the front office to ownership before the trade deadline and say, let's get out of the middle, let's move forward. And the other dynamic that I think is going to be really important to watch, what happens with the new collective bargaining agreement, because from what I understand, there's going to be a lot less revenue-sharing money paid out, and if that's the case, I think you're going to see the Yankees be more aggressive.
Buster, I'm going to try this with you and see how close I get. What's the latest with the Cuban third baseman Uliski Gurriel?
And I'll take your word for it that that's exactly how I pronounce it. I've read it a million times, but I've never actually pronounced it. Look, he became available earlier this week. Any team can now sign him as a free agent. He's very respected as a professional and the way that he carries himself. He's 32 years old. Okay, yeah. That's a really big factor. And I know, for example, Joel Sherman, terrific reporter for the New York Post, connected the Yankees maybe as speculation with him today. To me, that would just extend the Yankees' issues. They've got another 32-year-old third baseman in Chase Headley, who they thought was going to be a good player. He's in year 2 of a 4-year deal. You ready to turn the page on that and invest tens of millions of dollars in another 32-year-old third baseman who has no experience in the major leagues? I wouldn't be so quick to do that. And on top of that, while you look at Yoenis Cespedes and his success, or Jose Abreu of the White Sox, and that's great, but so many of the Cuban players have flamed out. They have been disasters, and teams, and the Dodgers are probably the biggest victim in this. They spent so much money and just simply are not getting return.
Let me ask you about this controversy going on right now, Buster, about Pete Rose and Ichiro as to who is the true hit king. Do Japanese hits count the same as hits in Major League Baseball here?
Well, they don't count for Major League Baseball hits, and and I got to tell you that generally speaking, I find the discussion, I hate it because I find it disrespectful to both players. Because here's the deal. Since I started covering baseball and players are coming from Japan, and I would ask team evaluators, what's the level of baseball in Japan? And what I would get back was AA to AAA. It's a good brand of baseball, especially the pitching, but it's not Major League Baseball. So getting 4,256 hits in the major leagues like Pete Rose did is not the same. If you listen to the evaluators, is getting 4,255, which is what Ichiro has in Japan and in the major leagues. But here's the thing. I mean, what Ichiro has been as a player is amazing. He didn't have his first at-bat in the big leagues until he was 27 years old, and he's only, 23 hits or 22 hits away from 3,000? That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so I don't like demeaning either guy.
Right. Buster, it's weird, though, because every time I see an Ichiro highlight, I'm like, oh, he's still playing?
42 years old, and the guy's hitting 350.
Right. I do like any time we get a Pete Rose soundbite, though, because they're always gruff now that he knows he's out. He's so angry. I got Mets fans chomping at the bit here in the Capital Region, Buster Olney. Is there a move out there that gives them the boost the Cespedes move did last season?
Well, and you remember last year at this time, it seemed like they had about 16 holes on their team where they could look to upgrade. And the weird thing is now where they are is that, yeah, we can look at their team and say, generally speaking, it needs an upgrade in offense, but you're kind of locked into Curtis Granderson and Yoenis Cespedes and Michael Conforto, as bad as his slump is. I know the Mets are happy with Asdrubal Cabrera, Neil Walker with his production. They've got Lucas Duda at some point coming back. To me, the potential match, the most interesting match potentially is Jonathan Lucroy, the Brewers, because they certainly have concerns about Travis d'Arnaud and A, how he's doing physically, B, can he throw out runners anymore? And Jonathan Lucroy is a great player. And there's been speculation in the media this week about Zach Wheeler for Jonathan Lucroy. I don't think Zach Wheeler's a perfect guy for the Brewers right now, because by the time the Brewers are good again as they rebuild, he'll be close to free agency. But there definitely are some elements between the Mets and the Brewers where you could see something being worked out. But what's got to happen is that the Mets have to be very aggressive, because this is going to be a seller's market for the Brewers, and they're going to get a lot in return for Lucroy.
Buster Olney joins us on 104.5 The Team. And Buster, I strictly asked this question because I feel like if we stop talking about it, they'll try to make it go away. Any update on Madison Bumgarner and the Home Run Derby?
Yes. I hear that the idea of Bumgarner or any pitcher being in the regular Home Run Derby is probably gone by. It's not probably going to happen. However, they are talking about some sort of a format that has the pitchers participating in the Home Run Derby in their own little special home run off.
So like separate but equal? We got to go there with the pitchers?
Not equal.
No, see, I mean, that's the direction right now. It sounds like that there's not going to be a pitcher in the regular Home Run Derby. I suggested the other day, because all the teams are concerned about hitters being out there for multiple rounds or pitchers being out there for multiple rounds. My idea the other day was to do like a pitcher relay team. Let Madison Bumgarner go first.
Okay.
And if he advances, the Jake Arrieta steps up. And if he advances, you finish off with Syndergaard.
That's great.
And Bartolo Colon for one pitch, just to see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Buster, where are you going to be this weekend?
We've got the Pittsburgh Pirates at the Chicago Cubs.
Ooh, that's a good one. That could be some playoff implications there.
Yeah, and at this point with the Cubs playing the way they are, that we're talking about a team that's on a historic pace, and I can't wait to see that huge new Cubs clubhouse.
Oh, very cool. All right, Buster Olney, man, thank you so much for your time. We'll hit up you next week for more baseball love.
Thanks, Buster.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.